Good evening, everyone. This is Voice of Caucasus, and I'm Tina Lukhutashvili.
And I am your co-host Hamida Giaspaili, delivering news from all over the Caucasus.
Georgian filmmakers and artists are protesting against the introduction of state control over the National Film Center. The artists fear that it will jeopardize the country's film industry and pose a broader threat to freedom of expression. The controversy centers around the Minister of Culture, Teat Ulukiani, who is accused of purging cultural institutions of critical voices and appointing individuals with no experience in cinema. The protesters also presented the manifest declaring they will never back down and they will not obey any kind of censorship. Haji Zainali will walk us through the details from the protests.
Georgian film is in danger. This is the slogan that united people who gathered in front of the Minister of Culture to protest against the introduction of state control over the National Film Center. It has been already months that filmmakers are rallying and expressing concerns over the reorganization of the Georgian National Film Center, which they see as an attempt to exert state control over the film production, leading to the dismissal of several employees and accusation of political retaliation.
So-called reorganization and reforms in the National Film Center, these are not real reforms. This is just repressions coming from the Minister of Culture, and these people are protesting against the new film policy, not only film policy, but against the new cultural policy, which is completely unacceptable for filmmakers, for the representatives of the whole cultural field, the cultural sphere.
Minister of Culture Teat Ulukiani, known for her loyalty to the ruling Georgian Dream Party, is at the center of controversy, accused of purging cultural institutions and critical voices and replacing them with a pro-government propagandists and appointed by individuals who have no experience in cinema.
Organization who can forbid me not to screen anywhere my film, but the only source for us, for our filmmakers, is GNFC, and if they will have censorship there and if they will select the authors who are pro-government and not pro-government, and they will fund only pro-government people, it means that free art movie will die in Georgia.
According to protesters, not only the movie industry, but the whole art sphere is in danger, as the attempt to impose censorship is mounting.
It's not only the censorship in the cinema, but generally censorship in the culture. So there are other spheres that are under control somehow. Ministry tries to control different spheres of culture, and we stand together in this fight against the censorship and against our free right to expression.
Several weeks ago, the protest movement organized by the filmmakers and artists sent the official letter to the Minister of Culture calling for an open meeting with her, but they have not received an official answer yet. Georgia's art community representatives say it is a long battle that they vow to continue.
Hurvaleti, a village deeply impacted by the consequences of the Russian invasion, leading to challenges in daily life. The presence of a razor wire fence cutting through homes, gardens and orchards disrupts their lives and restricts their freedom of movement. According to the report by the State Security Service, the illegal activities by the Russian troops include laying out the barbed wires and fences, as well as holding anti-fire trenches. The Russian forces were also putting up banners, making the checkpoints and installing video cameras. Our reporters Tamar Gogochuri, Asli Ismailzadeh and Hajil Zeynali shed the light on the story of this region.
A razor wire cuts the village Hurvaleti into two. It runs through houses, gardens and orchards, leaving its residents unable to access safe farmlands and preventing freedom of movement. In the aftermath of the 2008 war, Russia took full control of Georgia's breakaway region of South Ossetia. Nora Batanishvili has lost access to her garden due to the barbed wire that is erected in her backyard.
I had 7,000 square meter yard behind my house. They do not permit me to take care for this land. They are continually walking and have created a trail. Everything has been destroyed, including a massive graveyard. This is simply our harvest. We have nothing else. I don't recall the board ever coming to this location and asking us how we were doing in that abandoned place.
The administrative boundary line has a huge impact on the daily lives of the residents of New Khurvaleti, the IDP settlement that became home to hundreds of Georgian citizens that were forced to flee their homes during the war. According to the local residents, the de facto government of the South Ossetia cut off the main water supply and irrigation systems to Georgia's controlled territories. A local farmer, Vevkia Dudayevi, says that the main income for IDPs depends on the harvest that's impossible to maintain without proper irrigation.
Everything you see was created with my hands. I am struggling so that my sons and grandsons will have something. Back home we had everything, but it's difficult here. We are irrigating with drinking water. Every garden is like this. This year there was a lot of rain, so the fruit isn't in danger. But after the drought, there will be some irritants.
Local residents carry water from the nearby well every day to use it for drinking and irrigation. According to the manager of Goris City Hall's drinking water and station surveys, the problem of water supply is being addressed, but it's impossible to predict when it will be resolved. Jujuna Maysuradze has been living in the IDP settlement in Khurvaleti since 2008. Since then, she has transformed the small piece of land that was given by the government into a blooming garden. But taking care of the garden is a daily struggle for her. She is forced to carry water from a distance to care for her plants.
We work hard and live like this because we are two elderly members of the family. I'm mostly working while I'm here. My husband has asthma and is unable to work. Life here is like this. We don't have irrigation, so we carry water by hand in the field. I fill these cylinders and we carry them. This is how we water the garden.
Despite the daily struggles, many residents hope that the proximity to their native villages will make it easy for them to eventually return to their houses, which now lie behind the barbed wire.
We leave the country with a plentiful crop, and when it comes time to begin harvesting, I always see my homeland in my dreams. I only want to see it, and I am willing to die at that moment.
The pandemic is over, but Azerbaijan is still not opening the land borders. The country closed them due to COVID-19 emergency in 2020. The Georgian Azerbaijanis living near the borderline struggle to maintain contact with their loved ones. Residents of the village Vakhtangisi, around 6 kilometers away from the Azerbaijani border, cannot travel to the country by land. Our correspondent Haji Zainali brings us the stories of people who are affected by this controversial policy.
Muzaffar Valiyev is from Gardabanis Nazarlı village, near the Georgian-Azerbaijani border. He has a small tea house in a neighboring village, Kesalo. Valiyev says that the closed land borders make life harder for him and all residents. He only communicates with his relatives by video call.
Benim gəlinim Azərbaycanlıdır.
I have an Azerbaijani bride. She's from Tovuz Govlar. Honestly, once or twice a year we have to buy a ticket expensively for her to see the family there. Then we must buy a return ticket after she stays for at least 2 months.
Atası evine, anası evine. Ondan sonra da bir ay, 2 ay kalır, bir de gelip təzədən gətiririk. Yəni çox əziyyət çəkirik.
He adds that the situation is even more challenging for those who live the near border village Vaxtangisi.
Çox narazıyıq. Ona görə ki,
We are very unhappy because the people living in Vaxtangisi go to Baku to see their married daughters in the village of Sadigli, and from there they come to the Sadigli. We live on one side of the channel, and our grandchildren and children live on the other side. The pandemic is over, and there is no such a serious problem that the borders remain closed.
tutardı, elə bir ciddi bir şey də yoxdur.
Vaxtangisi is a border village with Azerbaijan. On the other side of the border is another village, Sadigli. Before the pandemic, they could travel easily from the Vaxtangisi checkpoint to visit their families there. People in the village predominantly suffer from the situation. They cannot see their relatives for over 3 years since the land borders have been shut down. The village resident, Ismail Nagiev, mentioned that 1 month ago his wife's brother died in Sadigli, the neighboring Azerbaijani village, but they couldn't go there because of the situation. My wife's brother died 1 month ago. She could not go there. She has diabetes, so she cannot fly by airplane. It takes 2 minutes to get there actually. It's 1 step away from here. Our relatives live there. Why should I buy an airplane ticket to go there? Now people have only one option for going to Azerbaijan. They first go to Tbilisi from Gardabani, from Tbilisi to Baku by airplane. When they arrive at the capital city of Azerbaijan, they should travel to the border city by bus, which usually takes 5-6 hours. This route not only costs money, but also takes a lot of time. Before, it cost 5-10 lari to travel to Azerbaijan, but now it's 100 times more expensive and time-consuming. There is only one option to travel, and it's an airplane. Between Azerbaijan and Georgia, there is only one company operating that sells higher price tickets. For example, if they want to go to Azerbaijan, they have to spend at least 500 lari for one direction. 66 years old resident Suraya Samadova also complains about airplane ticket prices. She mentioned that it's been 3 years since her son couldn't come to visit her.
My son is there. He has 2 children and he has not covered the ticket. My sisters also are there. They cannot come here because of the roads. Why does Azerbaijan not open its borders? I am a pensioner. I also cannot cover going there. Every time they say land borders are about to open, but then they prolong it.
Georgia has opened its land borders since June 2021, but the neighborhood country Azerbaijan still keeps land borders closed. While rules and regulations to prevent the spread of the pandemic in Azerbaijan have changed over time, the closure of the borders has been the only constant. In July 2022, President Ilham Aliyev said they will remain closed as long as necessary to avoid the spread of COVID-19.
Sərhədlərimiz bağlıdır və bağlı olmalıdır. Nə üçün?
The direction of the spread of most diseases is land borders. That's why we keep our borders closed, and we will keep our land borders closed as long as necessary. We do this to protect people's health. Despite global pandemic being over, at the end of June, Azerbaijan decided to keep borders closed until the 1st of October.
I have accepted that advice. It's therefore with great hope that I declare COVID-19 over as a global health emergency.
The body of 26-year-old trans woman Julia Sadrova was found in the village of Hoja Hassan in Baku. According to the investigation, she was tortured to death on July 5th, and her body was found in a residential garbage bin several days later. The legislation in Azerbaijan does not address hate crimes based on gender identity or sexual orientation, and the law enforcement doesn't see LGBTQ+ community as a social group in need of protection. What does life entail when society and the nation refuse to accept you as an individual? The LGBTQ+ community in the South Caucasus faces a battle for recognition aggravated by the actions of the Georgian and Azerbaijani governments. The Georgian government is alleged to be endorsing aggression by homophobic individuals, while the Azerbaijani state actively suppresses the community, compelling some members to seek refuge abroad. Sali Javakhishvili and Tina Lukhutashvili delved into the pervasive homophobia in the Caucasus and issues stemming from the governmental policies.
I don't want to, but I may have to move to another country.
Bardi Ghviniashvili has been living in a homophobic society for over 50 years already. Coming out as it is has never happened for him.
I fell for a girl in 4th grade, and I told my cousins about my feelings towards her. If it qualifies as coming out, then that is my story.
Party considers transgender men do not exist in Georgian state. He's still addressed as a woman in official documents.
We sued our country about our official gender in the past. The Georgian state demanded full transition by us, and it is very rough interference in a person's health. There is no Georgian law to regulate things connected to transgenders. Reality is we don't exist for our country.
Being a community member is associated with nothing positive in Georgia.
Mainly with unemployment, lack of education, being homeless, and that's it. What else is there? If you have no job, no proper education, no shelter, what else is a human's life?
Homophobia is being instrumentalized in politics. The opposition, members of parliament, and human rights defenders agree on that.
You invent an image of the enemy and try to gather everyone around this image. This is propaganda. When we talk about the government misrepresenting all of this and saying that the West can corrupt our next generation, this is a whole propaganda based on misconceptions. Therefore, I think that in order to strengthen their own power, they organize these homophobic statements, and in this way, they try to mobilize their own voters.
The government has to carry out the democratic reforms which they do not intend on doing. They have to defend human rights, but they never do. If they carry out the reforms requested, they will lose power.
Running from your homeland is common for all Caucasian LGBTQ+ community members. For example, Lilia Azarov had to flee Azerbaijan in 2020 after the renewed Karabakh war. This turn of events made their life even more unbearable there.
Approximately 300 people who were against the war, and I was one of them, and I was speaking out. And then I got a lot of pressure, blackmailing, threatenings by society, and then I had call from state security services, and my friends, thanks to them, they backed me up and they said, "We are buying you a ticket, just leave the country immediately."
Apparently, being queer is no piece of cake in our region.
I feel safer than Azerbaijan, but I don't feel safe here.
These scenes show different years of radical groups attacking the sites in Tbilisi ever since 2013. The Georgian community has been trying to have a Pride March or at least closed events in Pride months, but could barely succeed. This year was no exception. The Tbilisi Pride organized several closed events and was planning on hosting a Pride Fest near Lisi Lake. But the violent groups still gathered against them and occupied the area. They took the drinks, snacks, and other stuff prepared beforehand.
It's physically impossible to fully guarantee and provide the safety of all the demonstrations, especially when we are talking about the area this west.
The government had nothing to say but make this statement, even though they had been criticized and told to act upon differently.
The Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs justified it was a vast field and it was difficult to control the situation there. However, before these people got to the open field, there were plenty of places where the ministry could control this crowd before they got to Lisi territory, and the situation became hard to control there.
Homophobia has caused the death of several community members in Georgia.
Most of the people who have been killed from our community were transgender women. Therefore, these people are the least protected.
The Georgian Dream government, encouraging the violence, has taken the life of a journalist too. Lekso Lashkarova died after July 5th's violent rally in 2021. Apart from Lashkarova, the homophobes beat more than 50 journalists and damaged the offices of Shame Movement, the Police Pride, and more. The President Zurabishvili calls the government for action and states that basic human rights shall be defended.
In reality, by inciting these counter-rallies and not condemning these actions or hate speech, the ruling party, the majority of the parliament, supports violence and takes responsibility for all the consequences.
In spite of turbulence, party stays in Georgia and hopes that his actions will trace the path for future generations.
I want to do something, trace the path so that the future generations from our family, from our friends, neighbors, don't have to take the same road as I did, the painful, humiliating, torturing, full of suicidal thoughts.
The gadgets we use on a daily basis might be a threat to us. The Armenian and the Azerbaijani civil societies have already encountered hacking software Pegasus spyware. So what is it and how is it used? Our reporters Asli Ismailzada and Hamida Giasbaili will tell you stories of journalists and activists who fell prey to the spyware. Take a look at the security implications of Pegasus and consider the delicate balance between the security and privacy.
In 2021, Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project released their investigation on Pegasus spyware. It was done in collaboration with 18 international non-profits and media organizations. World leaders and their families across the globe are on the list of targets, however, not only them. Activists, journalists, and human rights defenders, including the ones in South Caucasus, have also been targeted. Investigative journalist Aytan Farhadova from Azerbaijan experienced the impact of the spyware firsthand. After being in journalism for 15 years, Aytan was forced to flee to Georgia due to the pressure she was facing in Azerbaijan.
Açığı gözləmirdim də, yəni o texnologiyanı terroristləri izləyə bilər, terrorçuları izləyə bilərlər ki, bezdə məni izləmişdilər və dostlarımı, ətrafımı. Və nəinki səni izləyirlər, ondan sənə gələn zəngləri və həmin zənglərin onları belə aç. Yəni sənin ətrafın var, ailə üzvlərin var, qohumların var, heç dəxli olmayan adamlar var ki, onların da danışığı səninlə bərabər izlənir. Belə o qədər böyük hüquq pozmadan söhbət gedir ki, adam onun miqyasını da təsvir eləyə bilmir.
Azerbaijani civil society is not the only one targeted in the region. In May 2023, Access Now uncovered the hacking of civil society in Armenia. Artur Papian, co-founder at CyberHub, who conducted investigations into Pegasus spyware attacks in Armenia, was at the epicenter when the hacking began.
So when we started the investigation, we had no real understanding of where they came from. We were just looking at who's attacked, and naturally, because we're a computer emergency response team for civil society and journalists, we were seeing mostly, human rights defenders and journalists coming to us. However, when we put two and two together, when we looked at the overall cast of the people who were attacked, and also after investigation with partners like Citizen Lab, we heard more about what kind of infrastructure is used to target.
According to Artur Papian, the context in which Pegasus was deployed during the Second Nagorno-Karabakh War is especially alarming.
However, when we saw that the spyware is used in the context of active war, because nobody can deny that some war processes are still on the way, we saw more people describing it as a weapon, because frankly, in a war, information is weapon, and if information is extracted using a tool like this, that's a cyber weapon. So, as I said, when I initially had no real understanding of what this is, currently I came to view it as a cyber weapon, as a cyber espionage operation, which is very actively used in a context of an active war.
Pegasus spyware is not your average hacking tool. It is a sophisticated weapon that penetrates the most secure devices, infiltrating them with one single click. Georgi Yashvili, co-founder at Cybertrust here in Tbilisi, sheds a light on how Pegasus operates.
Jailbreaking and the routing are being these have been successfully achieved by the spyware Pegasus without any notice, without any clicking, and without any significant evidence of something susceptible on the device. So that's the most important part, that we never know what comes. We never know that maybe even on my phone there is something spyware, and this kind of spyware which controls my device and can see everything, and not only see but modify and have the full kind of vendor-like access to the device. That's most important part in it.
So why are the voices of journalists, activists and the opposition all over the world being suppressed through such surveillance? Ayten Farhadova thinks that it is based on perpetuating the lawless environments in authoritarian regimes.
Onlara sözsüz sorğulayacağam, çünki mənim işim budur. Mən işimi görməklə məşğulam və mənim ətrafım, mənim kimi onlardan jurnalist. Məsələn, onu sevinirəm ki, hələ də o jurnalistika yaşayır Azərbaycanda, o qədər baskıya, ağrıya, travmalara rəğmən. Çünki yenə deyirəm, bilmədiyimiz bir yerdən biz travma alırdıq və bundan xəbərimiz olmurdu. Amma belə hökumət hesabatlı olmalı olduğu yerdə hesabatlı deyil. Hökumət əlçatan deyil, bir çox şeydə dövlət qurumları əlçatan deyil, hesabatlı deyil, şəffaf deyil və necə bizi sevsinlər və biz də bunu onlardan tələb edirik.
The sophistication of Pegasus spyware, with its ability to infiltrate secure devices and grant hackers complete control, raises unsettling questions about our privacy and safety in the digital age. Are we ever truly safe? Tbilisi houses 10,000 buildings in an emergency state, often concealed to the residents living within them. Those who are aware of the situation face endless waits for necessary repairs. Furthermore, seismologists have issued warnings about the potential for a devastating earthquake that could inflict significant damage upon the city. Further details in the report by our colleagues Shushan Stepanyan and Ofelia Simonian.
I have been living in this house since 1957, and my relatives were living here much longer. The house is gradually falling down, and as a result, holes are appearing. It is the impact of humidity. The building is already very old. Even now, that pipe is broken, and the water is constantly pouring out and going down. The foundation is weakened because of that. Unfortunately, I am uncertain about whom to ask for help. The apartment is my property. If I say that the pipe is broken, they will answer to fix it myself.
89-year-old Lina Gevorkyan lives in Tbilisi's Sololaki district. Among tourists, Sololaki is known as Tbilisi's oldest and most historic district, but locals also identify it as a locality with emergency buildings. An apartment in which Lina Gevorkyan lives has more than 160 years of history and equally old problems.
We have been waiting for about 10 years for them to repair this building. It was last renovated during the Soviet period. After the death of my husband, I live alone in this apartment. At first, loneliness was very difficult. Many people told me to sell the apartment, but I answered that I don't like the construction corps. I spent my whole youth here, and I can't imagine myself anywhere else.
According to Tbilisi City Hall's calculations, there are more than 10,000 emergency buildings in the capital. The number is increasing. The apartment of the 89-year-old woman is one of the thousands of such buildings, which also has the status of cultural heritage. This means that only the state has the right to renovate the building.
We have applied many times for renovation, but they don't answer specifically. The stairs you climbed are in very bad condition. I can't go up and down with them. It was 4 years ago I fell down in this part. I hit my leg, or I was dizzy, I don't know. But I hurt my leg as a result. I had to be treated for some time.
Architect Georgi Makaridze highlights a trend where numerous people are abandoning their homes due to the risky living conditions they pose.
Here is the old system, how it works. If the owner of the building notices something strange, something unusual, cracks or damages, they will make statements to the city hall and they will check the building, and after that they will give the status of emergency building. But nowadays, as I mentioned earlier, there are thousands of buildings that expired, but now today they are good looking, but in terms of earthquake resistance, we don't know the information.
The architect says that about a year ago, the mayor of Tbilisi introduced a new proposed law. This law gives residents of unsafe buildings the opportunity to apply to the municipality for repair. If approved, the city government will take responsibility for fixing the buildings.
We all know that it's not about 2 years, 3 years process. It will take a long time, and these people who live in the emergency buildings are very in danger because this will take 10 years, 15 years to replace all the building.
Many of the buildings in Tbilisi have a history of more than 100 years, which makes their exploitation dangerous. There were many cases when residential buildings collapsed and people died. However, neither in the capital of Georgia nor in other cities there is still no list of emergency buildings that people can familiarize themselves with. The emergency condition of buildings is often contributed to unscrupulous residents who build additional balconies, sometimes rooms and houses, without observing safety standards. Some of them were released from responsibility through amnesty. Seismologist Thea Godoladze reminds the 2002 earthquake in Tbilisi, which was only 4.5 magnitude, but took 8 lives and damaged over 12,000 buildings.
In Georgia and the Caucasus, we had in the past the big earthquakes, and the earthquakes are happening right now, and there's a big probability that the big earthquake will happen in the future.
Considering the chaotic development of infrastructure in Tbilisi, seismologists think that residents are at high risk.
Because it's very urbanized area, the population density is very high, therefore we need the maximum measures and very immediate measures to secure the life.
The Tbilisi City Hall. They only agree to the degree of delimitation of which is Category 5 and how much work remains to be done.
The summer is here. The tourist sites are waiting for the guests. But it's not that simple for Shatili. The mountainous village of Georgia has been out of proper electricity for almost half a year. The hydropower plant was built 2 years ago. Still, the villagers are struggling with the absence of reliable power supply during the tourist season. Even though the repairing works have started, the locals are afraid that the reconstruction will not solve the issue in the long term. Our reporters Tamar Mchedlidze and Tamar Gogochuri went deeper to investigate the reasons for the issue.
სამი თვეა ეს დაზიანებულია, გზა გაიხსნა თვენახევრის წინ, ერთი კვირის წინ წაიღეს დაზიანებული ნაწილი, იმას არ ამბობენ ამ დაზიანებულ ნაწილს როდის მოიტანენ. თან ისიც არის, რომ კაკაური ხალხი ცხოვრობს ტურიზმით და მათთვის ერთადერთი შემოსავლის წყარო ეს არის.
In the village of Shatili, Georgi Chincharauli, 29-year-old resident, has returned to his ancestral home and opened a cafe within the historic towers this year. But his dreams of running a successful business face a formidable obstacle. The village is without electricity.
საგვარეულო კოშკს ვაკეთებ როგორც კაფე და ბიბლიოთეკა. ჩემი წლევანდელი გეგმა არის, რომ მთელი სეზონი ზაფხულის 3 თვე და შემოდგომის 2 თვე, სულ 5 თვე ვამუშავო კაფე, ბიბლიოთეკა. სანამ ეს საცხოვრებლად შატილში ჩამოვიდოდი 6 წლის წინ, ზუსტად მაშინ დაზიანდა ძველი ჰესი, რომელიც 70-იან წლებში გაკეთდა და მუდმივად რაღაცა ბოლო წლებში მაინც ხარვეზებით იყო ხოლმე, მაგრამ ამასთან შედარებით მაინც ჰქონდა ხოლმე ზაფხულში ელექტროენერგია. დაბალი სიმძლავრე ჰქონდა იმას, ახლა არ ყოფნი და რაღაცეებს, მაგრამ მაინც ვამუშავებდით და უფრო იმედიანად ვიყავით.
Shatili is a remote village nestled deep within Georgia's mountains. Its challenging roads and turns isolate the villagers from the outside world for approximately 7 months each year. Starting from February 2023, mismanagement of the electric power has resulted in locals being left without access to electricity. Every summer, Nino Chincharauli visits Shatili to manage the family guest house. With the roads now open, she is returning to the village to prepare for the upcoming touristic season.
რამდენიმე თვეა დაზიანებულია ჰესი, რის გამოც არ აქვს სოფელს ელექტროენერგია, შესაბამისად ელემენტარული პირობები რაც არის, რომ ცხელი წყალი, ელექტროენერგიის მაცივარი თუ სხვა ნებისმიერი სერვისი რაც დაკავშირებულია ელემენტარულ კომფორტთან ვერ ვთავაზობ ამას ვიზიტორებს, ამიტომ ძალიან მეუხერხულება, მაგრამ ბევრ ვიზიტორს უთხარი უარი განთავსებაზე სწორედ ამ მიზეზების გამო. არც ერთი ჰესი არ არის მწყობში, არც ერთი ჰესი არ მუშაობს და იმასაც ვერავინ გვეუბნება, როდის შეძლებენ შეაკეთონ ან ერთი ან მეორე ჰესი და ვართ ესეთ გაურკვეველ მდგომარეობაში, როგორ მოვიქცეთ არ ვიცით. წინა წელს საკმაოდ ბევრი ტურისტი მივიღე, შაბათ-კვირას განსაკუთრებით ძალიან დიდი მოთხოვნა იყო და არც ერთ შაბათი-კვირა არ ყოფილა, რომ არ ყოლოდა ვიზიტორი. წელს რა თქმა უნდა ვერ ვიღებ და არც ვიცი როდიდან შევძლებ ვიზიტორების მიღებას. იმისთვის რომ საოჯახო სასტუმრო ვამუშაო სრულფასოვნად ჩავთო ყველა ტექნიკა და შევქმნა ვიზიტორებს პირობები, ამისთვის მჭირდება მძლავრი გენერატორის შეძენა, რაც საკმაოდ დიდ თანხებთან არის დაკავშირებული. შესაბამისად გამოსავალს ვერ ვხედავ ამ სიტუაციიდან, ამიტომ დაკეტილი მაქვს საოჯახო სასტუმრო, უბრალოდ მოვაწესრიგე ყოველი შემთხვევისთვის იმ იმედით, რომ იქნებ რამე შეიცვალოს უახლოეს მომავალში.
The lack of electricity doesn't only affect the residents, but also hampers the development of the tourism sector. Anton Agapov experienced many difficulties during his first visit to Shatili.
We have plans to have some sightseeing in the morning, but we have some troubles with charging our phones. There are some problems with it here, and it's really would be really better, really more comfortable if there was stable electricity and we could charge all we need, and we could stay much longer and see around here.
Shatili used to have a functional hydroelectric station that provided electricity to the entire village for 45 years. However, in 2019, the old station suffered damage, and despite the Georgian Energy Development Fund's initial claim of a full repair, after 1 year it remained unrepaired and non-functional.
რეაბილიტაციის პროექტის ფარგლებში სავსებით გამოიცვალა არსებული აგრეგატები, განახლდა სრულიად და გარდა იმისა, რომ შატილს ჰესთან დაკავშირებით არსებული პრობლემა აღმოიფხვრა და რეაბილიტაცია მოხდა 1970 წელს აშენებული ჰესის, არამედ პროექტის იდეა სოციალურად მნიშვნელოვანი, იმიტომ არის, რომ ბენეფიციარები გამომუშავებული ელექტროენერგიისა სწორედ შატილის მოსახლეები არიან.
In addition to attempting to fix the old station, the fund invested $2.4 million in constructing a new station named Bitehi 1. Unfortunately, despite a 2-year guarantee, the new station encountered significant issues within just 6 months of operation. David Chincharauli, who worked at the station for 4 years, believes that the initial cause of these problems lies in poor construction.
ჩვენ მის მშენებლობის დროს გვქონდა შენიშვნები მის გარკვეული პარამეტრებთან დაკავშირებით, რომლებიც არავინ გაითვალისწინა და ამან გარკვეული შედეგიც გამოიღო ის, რომ ყოველ ზაფხულს წყლის ადიდება გვიქმნის პრობლემას და როგორც ამ დროს ძალიან დიდი პერიოდი ვართ უშუქოდ, ასევე ჰესიც ზიანდება და ამ ეტაპზე დაზიანებულია ამ წყალდიდობების გამო. რაც შეეხება ეხლა გარემონტებას, გარემონტების შემდეგ არ ვიცი ზუსტად მოხერხდება თუ არა სრულფასოვნად მომარაგება სოფლის, მაგრამ იმაზე უკეთესი მდგომარეობა იქნება ყოველ შემთხვევაში ვიდრე ეხლა, იმიტომ რომ ამ ეტაპზე დიზელ გენერატორით მარაგდება სოფელი, გრაფიკით მეწოდება ელექტროენერგია.
Mariam Chincharauli, a 79-year-old local resident, remembers a time when the old station was functional and the daily tasks were not as difficult.
Რამდენ ხანი ეხლა რაცერ გვაქვს დენ 2 თვეი? კი 2 თვეზე მეტი. მავა 15 წუთს ენთებ, მე 1 საათს 2 საათს ჩაქრებ. ერთ პლიტას ვერ ვrtავთ. აი ერთ პლიტა რო ჩავrtავთ და ემზა ფხულში აი ფეჩზე ვაგზებ ცეცხლსა და ფეჩზე ვაკეთებთ ყველაფერს. ისე დღეში ვართ, ჩვენ პატრონ არავინ არა. ძველგეს სანამ იყო კარგად იყვნენ, დღეღამეს თუ იყო, მაგრამ აი ეს ახალგეს რაც გააკეთეს, იმის მერე ყოველთვის აი ესეთ პრობლემები, მაგრამ ეხლა როა ესე უშუქოდ არ ყოფილა. გზა რო გაიხსნებო, მაშინვე გავაკეთებთო, გზა გაიხსნო რკვირა აი კიდე მეტი, მაგრამ არავინ არ მოვიდა და არც იწუხებენ თავს, არც ეკეთებენ.
ძალიან რთული ადგილობრივისთვის, მთელი ზამთარი როცა ის შრომობს, ემზადება ზაფხულისთვის, რომ ზაფხულში რაღაცა გაყიდოს, რაღაც სერვისი შესთავაზოს ტურისტს და ზაფხულში აი ესეთი უიმედო მდგომარეობა, სადაც საერთოდ პასუხებიც არ არის. არსად არ იგრძნობა, რომ ხალხი აინტერესებთ, მათი შემოსავლები აინტერესებთ და საერთოდ აქაურობა აინტერესებთ ესეთი ისტორიული ადგილი. მით უმეტეს ვართ საზღვართან 300 მეტრში. სასაზღვრო ზონაშიც ვართ, სასაზღვრო ზოლშიც ვართ. ან ორივეში ერთად ვართ და შატილი არის სადღაც ჩამოკიდებული. არადა ბოლო წლებში დაიხარჯა უამრავი მილიონი. მარტო შატილზე დაახლოებით 50 მილიონამდე. მაგრამ რო შეხედო რა გაკეთდა, ვერაფერს ვერ დაინახა.
So this was all for today. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, and don't forget to subscribe to our channels on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube for more information. This was Tina Lukhutashvili with Hamida Giasbaili with you.
And the rest of the GIPA journalism students. Have a good evening.